Our next lesson is going to be about prisms. Prisms are a type of three-dimensional figure where we have different faces on that figure. They're all polygons. All of these faces are the sides of this figure. So notice here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces, and they're all rectangles. We would call that a rectangular prism. Over here we have 1, 2 triangular faces, and then 1, 2, 3 rectangular faces. So we would have 5 faces altogether. Now 2 of those faces have a special name. The ones that are parallel to each other and congruent we actually call bases. And so I'm going to highlight here which ones are the bases. You should too. Actually, on a rectangular prism you can choose any parallel set of rectangles, but on other types of prisms, for example the triangular prism, the ones that are parallel and congruent are the 2 triangles. So those shapes we call bases. And a base is the pair of sides that are parallel and congruent. Now the other sides are called something different. Those are called the lateral faces. So all of the other faces of the prism are rectangles that connect the 2 bases. And that is what a lateral face is. Now notice here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 lateral faces. Here we have 1, 2, 3. So we're going to label those lateral face, lateral face, that's the back one, the bottom one, and then the front one. Now we actually have the edges named something specific. The ones on the bases we're going to call a base edge. It's literally the edge of the base, so it's those line segments. And then the edge on the lateral face is called a lateral edge. So, like these, for example. I'm going to also label the lateral faces on the triangular prism. Notice we have 1, 2, and 3. Now, when we unfold these, what we would see is we would actually see 6 rectangles here, and we'd see 2 triangles and 3 rectangles here, and we would look at the net, and we would be able to calculate this surface area of those figures. What we're going to do is we're going to get the formulas for those surface areas and also talk about volume and get those and calculate those. So first we have the lateral area. Lateral area we'll abbreviate as LA. The lateral area is just the area of those lateral faces, so just those rectangles that connect the 2. The formula is LA equals P times H. We'll talk about more about what P and H stand for in just a little bit. Total area, we'll abbreviate as TA, is the lateral area plus the two bases. So we have the total area that equals PH, which was the lateral area that we just had, but we have to add in our two bases, so two bases. Volume we'll abbreviate as V. Remember, this is your capacity, how much that object can hold in it, and the volume is equal to B times H. So now let's talk about what those letters stand for. P is the perimeter of the base shape, whether it be a triangle, a trapezoid, a rectangle, whatever. Then we have big B in there. Let me zoom out a little. Big B is the area of the base shape. Again, no matter what type of shape it is, it's just the area of it. And we'll actually find that in ways we did in our last unit. And then H is the height of the prism. Now, there's something important about the height of the prism. The height of a prism is the length between the bases. But remember, the length between the bases are along a lateral face. So in other words, this is a lateral edge. Notice for all of these formulas, we have to find P, B, and H. And those are the things that we plug in. So a way to remember this, I kind of think of an acronym. So I think of PB like peanut butter and then H for honey. So I call these my peanut butter and honey formulas. So if we're finding lateral area, total area, and volume, we're going to use peanut butter and honey. So let's turn the page. What we're going to do is look at this prism. We're going to name it, and then we're going to find the lateral area, total area, and volume. Well, we're going to first identify what our base shape is. So the base shape is a rectangle. Notice it says use the shaded face as your base. So we have a length of 6 and a width of 8. And we're going to find our peanut butter and honey. So based on the base that we have here, we are going to have a perimeter of 6 plus 6 plus 8 plus 8, and that's going to give me a perimeter of 28. Our big B is the area of the base. We find the area of a rectangle by doing base times height, so that's 6 times 8, which will give you 48. Remember, the height of a prism is the length between the bases. So if this gray one is my one base, then that means the top is my other base. So the length between them is that 2. So the height of the prism is 2. Now, because my base was a rectangle, we would call this a rectangular prism. Now that we have our peanut butter and honey, we have enough to plug into our formulas. We have LA, which is pH, TA, which is pH plus 2B, and volume, which is big B times H. So now all we have to do is plug those peanut butter and honey numbers into our formulas. So LA is P times H. That's going to be 28 times 2. 28 times 2 is 56 and because it's area, it's square units. For total area, we have the 28 times 2 that we just found, plus 2 times big B. And big B is 48. So this becomes 56 plus 96, which is 152 square units. The volume is big B times H, which is 48 times 2, and that is going to be 96. And because volume is a three-dimensional measure, that's going to be cubic units. So we have 96 units cubed. In example 3, it says find the lateral area, total area, and volume of this cube if each edge is 5. So we have labels of 5, 5, and 5. Our base, because this is a cube, our base is a square. So we know all the sides are 5. So let's find our peanut butter and honey and then plug in for LA, TA, and V. So P is perimeter of the base. So that's going to be 5 times 4 sides, which is 20. Area of the base is going to be 5 times 5, which is 25. The height of the prism is the length between the bases, so that's 5. Now I'm going to plug in and find LA, TA, and V. Remember LA is PH, TA, PH plus 2B, and V is big B times H. The more you write those formulas over and over, you'll start to memorize them. And then your calculations will go much faster because you don't have to look back and forth on that formula chart. All right, LA is P times H, which is 20 times 5. That's going to be 100. And because they gave us centimeters, that's centimeters squared. Total area, we're going to add our PH that we just found, plus 2 times big B, which was 25. So that is 100 plus 50, which is 150 square centimeters. Lastly, we have big B times H, that's 25 times 5. So that's 125 cubic centimeters. Notice on example 4, we actually have a different base than the last two. Notice our base here is a triangle with sides of 10, 10, and 12, which makes this an isosceles triangle. Now, the name of this prism, because our base is a triangle, is a triangular prism. We name our prisms by the base shape. But our method doesn't change. We still have to find our peanut butter and honey in order to plug in. Perimeter is easy enough because we already have all the sides. It's 10 plus 10 plus 12, which is going to be 22. Now, for area of the base, for big B, we have to do area of a triangle. Well, area of a triangle, remember, is 1/2 little b times h. Now, this is just for this triangle. We're not talking about the h for the prism, we're talking about the h for the triangle. When we have an isosceles triangle, we find that height by using Pythagorean theorem. That height cuts that base in half, so we have 6 and 6. So now I need to do 6 squared plus h squared equals 10 squared. So I have to solve for that little h first. So 6 squared plus h squared equals 10 squared. That's 36 plus h squared equals 100. Subtract 36 and you get 64. Square root it and you get h is 8. So the height of this little triangle base is 8. So we have 1/2 times our base of 12 times our height of the triangle of 8. Plug that in, or calculate it, it's already plugged in. Half of 12 is 6. 6 times 8 is 48. So big B is 48. And I think I miscalculated this. This should actually be 32. Sorry, guys. Now, the height of the prism, remember, is the length between the bases. So h is 4. Now I have enough to go ahead and plug in for LA, TA, and V. Remember, LA is P times H. So that's 32 times 4. 32 times 4 is 128, and it didn't give us units, so units squared. Total area is that 128 that we just found, plus 2 times big B. So that's 128 plus 96, which is 224 square units. Volume is big B times H, which is 48 times 4. 48 times 4 is 192 cubic units. The next example, notice that our base is not a triangle or a rectangle here. We have our base, that's a hexagon. So the way we would actually name this prism is a hexagonal prism. We still need to find our peanut butter and honey to plug in. So P, B, and H. Now notice it gives us a side length of 6. Since we know that this is a regular prism, we know all of those other sides are 6 as well. So perimeter is 6 times those 6 sides. To find the area of this hexagon, we use the area of a regular polygon formula, which is 1/2 apothem times perimeter. Well, we already found the perimeter, so we just need to find the apothem. Remember, the apothem is from the center of that polygon straight down perpendicular to the side. Also remember, in the hexagon we have the radius that makes a 60-degree angle with that base, which makes this a 30-degree angle, and we have a 30, 60, 90. The apothem cuts that side in half, so this is 3. So that's the 30, that's the x, and then the x root 3 is 3 root 3. And that's your apothem. So we have 1/2 times 3 root 3 times a perimeter of 36. So now we have 1/2 times 3 times 36 root 3, which is 54 root 3. Remember, the honey part of our peanut butter and honey is the height of the prism. The height of the prism is the length between the bases. So that is 12. Now here, I'm going to write off to the side how to calculate these, because it might get a little complicated. We have LA, which is P times H. So we have 36 times 12. 36 times 12 is 432. So 432 square units is the lateral area. Total area, we have to add that little lateral area plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 54 root 3. So we have to multiply the 2 That becomes 108 root 3. Notice these are not like terms, so do not combine these terms. You will leave it as 432 plus 108 root 3 square units. That is your answer. Do not simplify it any further. For volume, we have big B times H. Notice the difference in what we did in total area from what we were doing in volume. Here we're actually multiplying. So we have 54 times 12 times the square root of 3. So we have 648 root 3. This we will combine. Notice here we were only adding, so we could not combine those terms. But since we were multiplying, we could go ahead and multiply. So 648 root 3 units cubed. In example 6, our base is a trapezoid. With legs of 5 and 5 and bases of 6 and 12. Notice it gives us also the height of that trapezoid. That is 4. The height of the prism, however, is not 4. Don't get those two heights confused. Alright, so we're going to find our peanut butter and honey. Perimeter of the base is just going to be 5 plus 5 plus 6 plus 12. And that's going to be 28. Area of the base is the area of a trapezoid. Remember, that's 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height of that trapezoid. So 1/2 B1 plus B2, those were 6 and 12, times the height, which was 4. So we have 6 plus 12, which is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 9 times 4 is 36. The height of the trapezoid is the height of the prism is the length between the two trapezoidal bases. So notice we have a base here, the length between them is the height of the prism. So that's 10. Now I have enough to plug in and find my lateral area, total area, and volume. Remember that's P times H. 28 times 10 is 280 square units. TA is 280 plus 2 times big B. So that is 280 plus 72, which is 352 square units. Volume is big B times H, so that's 360 cubic units. Now let's go back and actually name this one. Because our bases are trapezoids, we call this a trapezoidal prism. In example 7, we have another triangular prism here. Because our base is a triangle. Notice it has these dashes on those sides. That means all of those sides have length 4. Now we're going to find our P, B, H. Perimeter of the base is going to be 4 times 3. Which is 12. Area of the base is the area of a triangle. So we can go ahead and make the height of that triangle. That cuts the side in half. Remember, an equilateral triangle has angles of 60, so we know that's a 30, 60, 90, which makes the height here 2 root 3. Now the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So I have half of 4 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4 root 3. The height of this prism, the length between the two triangles, is 12. Now, plugging into our formulas, LA is P times H, 144 units squared. TA is 144 plus 2 times big B. We can multiply the 2 times the 4 and get 8 root 3, but past that we cannot combine. So I leave that as 144 plus 8 root 3 square units. Volume is big B times H. That is 48 root 3. Because I'm multiplying, I can multiply those two coefficients, 4 and 12, and get 48 root 3 cubic units. Right, in example 8, this is a problem where we have to work backwards. So we have to look at what we're given. The volume of a rectangular prism is 24 cubic units, or cubic centimeters. Find its height, lateral area, and total area. So we're given volume. So work backwards. From the volume formula. Which is volume equals big B times H. We're given the volume equals 24. So we have 24 equals big B times H. But notice, we're given the base is that shaded part. We know the perimeter of that base will be 3 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2, which is going to be 10. We can also find the area of that base because it's just a rectangle. That's going to be 6. All we need is the honey to find LA and TA. So we can actually use that 6 in for that big B. So we can plug that in. Divide by 6, and we know our height is 4. So our height is 4. Now we have enough to plug in for LA and TA. LA is P times H. That's going to be 10 times 4. So 40 square centimeters. TA is that 40 plus 2 times big B. That's 40 plus 12, which is 52 square centimeters. In example 9, we have the base of a triangular prism is an equilateral triangle with sides of 3. The height of the prism is 10 centimeters. Find LA, TA, and V. Well, then what we need in order to do that is we need our peanut butter and honey. If we know the base is an equilateral triangle with all sides of 3, we can find the area of that and the perimeter of that. Perimeter is just 3 times 3, which is 9. Area of the base is going to be 1/2 base times height. The base of that is 3. The height is going to be 1.5 root 3 based on that 30, 60, 90. And that gives you 2.25 root 3. The height of the prism, it tells us, is 10. Now all we have to do is plug in. LA is P times H. That's going to be 90 square centimeters. Next we have 90 plus 2 times 2.25 root 3, which becomes 90 plus 4.5 root 3 units squared. You cannot combine those terms because one has a root 3 and the other one does not. Volume is big B times H. 2.25 times 10 is 22.5 root 3 cubic units. Next we have example 10, where our base is a hexagon. And we need to find our peanut butter and honey. And we just want to find the total area and volume. Now, it tells us we have a side length of 10, and the height of the prism is 13. So let's go ahead and plug our 13 in for the height. Now we need to find perimeter, which is going to be 10 times 6, because we have 6 sides. Now the area of the base, we have to do 1/2 apothem times perimeter. So we have to find the apothem. We know the perimeter 60. We know the base is going to be cut in half by that apothem. This is a 60-degree angle, so this becomes 5 root 3. So 1/2 times 5 root 3 times 60 is 150 root 3. Now I have to plug in and find TA and V. TA is P times H plus 2 times big B. 60 times 13 is 780 plus 300 root 3. Notice those are not like terms. We leave it just as is. 780 plus 300 root 3. And that's in square inches. Volume is big B times H. 150 times 13 is 1,950, and then root 3 cubic inches. So as you're doing your assignment, what you need to do is look for what you need to find P, B, and H. Given that base shape, find the perimeter and find the area of that base, and then the height of the prism is the length between the bases.